Welcome back to the Ignore the Tablet podcast, the only Liverpool podcast on the entire internet hosted by me. And yes, this is typically an FPL podcast, but we're doing another Liverpool special. If you're subscribed to this channel, you would have gotten a couple of these. And I did a very similar podcast last year, but the transfer window had already opened and transfer business was already going ahead. So Florian Wirtz totally changed the suggestions and strategy of what I would have recommended for Liverpool's summer business last summer. So I'm going to do my best to suggest what Liverpool should do this summer, 2026, recording on Sunday, May 10th, Mother's Day in America. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. I don't know how many mothers are listening to this podcast. Maybe my mom, but yeah. So the topic of the podcast today is we've got a tier list. I'm trying this out, so bear with me, but we're doing a tier list to walk through all of the issue areas of Liverpool and suggest where players fall in the pecking order. Should they be straight into the starting 11? Should they be pushing kind of in betweeners, squad players? Should they be loaned out? Should they be sold or allowed to go on contract exit? So we're going to go through all those. And I actually have players that I've recommended that play for other teams that we would have to do deals with to get them in. So they're included and we're going to see how it goes. I've got lots of stats to discuss for each of the new players. And again, if you've listened to some of the Liverpool specials in the past, you'll have an idea of what I'm looking for. So I'm going to try to outline some of that quickly for anybody who's freshly tuning in for the first time, but let's jump into context and jump to the other screen. And here we are with the classic tier list setup. And as I said, let's set some of the context. So I'll try to be as brief as possible because if you've subscribed and listened to the podcast, you probably have an idea of where this is going. But I think I gave Arne Slot a lot of leash, a lot of rope to choke himself with, and at the end of the day I think he has choked himself with it. I understand that there have been a lot of caveats. I went through all of them in my previous Liverpool special. I probably link that one below because that one's pretty relevant, but I rate Arne Slot very highly. I think he could be successful at Liverpool. However, I think the squad that Richard Hughes put together for him and maybe with him, so I can't discount, maybe that's partially his fault, but the squad building this summer was awful if you were trying to suit an Arne Slot system that was successful and won the Premier League in his first season. Polar opposite players, profile mismatches every single signing. Just to call out a few, the season that Liverpool won the title, we played with a false 9. Last summer, we signed 2 number 9s. We lost so much pace on the wing with Luis Diaz being sold, which again is fine, but we have aging Mohamed Salah and we have Cody Gakpo, who is slow as molasses. Looks like he's walking in jello. So the pace was gone. You had Trent Alexander-Arnold, who's able to play high volume progressive passes, cutting through the midfield, cutting through the lines. We have no passing players in our entire team, essentially, apart from maybe Van Dijk. Where else? But those were really the main ones, I think. And plus injuries, plus a bunch of other nonsense. I understand why Liverpool did not succeed this season. As a Liverpool fan, I didn't even pick them to be leaders in the league when I did my predictions. I put them number 2. I put Arsenal number 1, who are currently top of the table with their win over West Ham. And yeah, so those are some of the context. And because I think this team setup would require so much transfers, so much movement, that I don't think Liverpool have the capacity, or they should not allow themselves the capacity. I think they need to hire another manager, and I think they need a tactically flexible manager, somebody who has experience playing a 3-4-3 or a 3-5-2. So it just, everything suits Xabi Alonso. And I hate to be like such an obvious call out, but the squad is perfectly suited for him. He's got a lot of the similar, he's got Frimpong and Wirtz, who both made that Bayer Leverkusen's side so successful. It makes a whole lot of sense. He's a Liverpool legend, or at least an icon. I don't know how people rank certain ex-players these days, but I love Xabi Alonso. He's one of my favorite players, and I think he would be perfect at Liverpool. And I think the squad suits him very well. The amount of changes that would be needed probably wouldn't be that much. So now that that's out of the way, the squad that I'm going to suggest is going to be for Xabi Alonso, because if I was Richard Hughes, Arne Slot, thank you so much for winning the title. I screwed up, and you're unfortunately just going to have to walk the plank for me, basically, because the squad is now not suited to your system, and now we need to bring in a manager that suits the system. So Arne Slot would be the first move in my director of football manager type thing, and Xabi Alonso would be appointed. So all of these players that I'm going to discuss, that is the lens I'm going to be taking. And the second set of context, this is a point that I see all the time, and I just want to clear it up, and hopefully my perspective comes across. But so often I see some comments like, you're not an accountant, or it's not your money, yada, yada. Sure, yeah, but this is not FC 26. This is not Football Manager. You can't just throw money around. There are consequences to overspending on players that are not suited. And I think there's perfect evidence of that from last summer. They massively overspent on Florian Wirtz and Alexander Isak, who, two fantastic players. Were they suited to an Arne Slot system? I would argue no. Plus, you already had Szoboszlai, who is one of Liverpool's best players, playing the same exact position as Wirtz, since they don't play 2 10s in an Arne Slot system. That from the jump just didn't make sense. So anyways, what I'm trying to say is that the suggestions that I'm going to make are going to be relatively financially achievable, or should not break the bank. And the reason for that is because there are financial fair play rules. It's PSR, and then it's going to be changing into something else next season, I believe. But the spending has to be somewhat realistic. I don't think it's going to be realistic to just buy. Some of the players that I have in the tier list are examples of perfect signings that are unrealistic. So like Elise, I think, is a perfect example. Bayern are not going to sell him. If they did, it would be an exorbitant amount of money, over 100 million, probably the same with Elliot Anderson. So I'm going to suggest financially reasonable, and my dog is barking. Let's see if I can cut around that. Okay, hopefully the barking has stopped. Hopefully that wasn't distracting, but dogs bark. It's what they do. Yeah. So where was I? Elliot Anderson, Michael Elise. Another one that I think is going to be a very unpopular opinion, Yan Diomande. I think he's going to be way too expensive. I think he's too inexperienced, and I don't think he would be right for the system. So just wanted to get all of those off my chest, because while Liverpool may be able to spend 80, 90 million on one given player or two, I'm going to be conservative with this, because I think Liverpool should be smarter in the market. I think what made Michael Edwards, I was about to say Michael Hughes, Michael Edwards so successful is that they signed 24-year-olds who were either underrated, they had contract expiring, like they were nearing the end of their contract, is what I'm trying to say, or more like gems, good data analysis, etc. So I think some of the players that I'm going to suggest hopefully fall back into that, because I think that's what made Liverpool so successful under Klopp. And this past summer was like the furthest departure from what I understand Liverpool to be, that it's cognitive dissonance to the extreme. So I think that's what I'm going to tend to recommend with players. And hopefully you understand the perspective. If you don't, shoot me a message in the comments and we'll talk it out, because everyone has a different perspective. Of course, I would love to just sign every world beater and just have the best team. And I just don't think that's realistic. And I don't think that should be realistic, because I don't like when other teams funded by countries and dark money and shitty, weird mafia stuff. I don't think any football club should be run that way. I do think that, or I would hope that these new, like whatever PSR is transferring into, hopefully that can set more accountability. 115, just shout out. Okay, now that hopefully all of that's out of the way, let's jump into what I think I'm going to do first. Is I'm just going to go through the sales and contract exits, because I think those are actually pretty easy. And then hopefully from there, we can kind of get an idea how many players we need, because we're selling or letting go X amount of players. So we'll need to fill that void. So let's start with contract exits and sales. And I think there's some obvious ones. Mohamed Salah, he's going to be gone. There's some sort of agreement that we're just going to let his contract terminate his contract at the end of the season. I would love to get some money from that, and maybe there's something in the works. Like even a 10 mil would be nice. But he's going to be gone. Endo, I love Endo. I'm having to read the tea leaves on this, because Arne Slot has almost never played him in the past 2 seasons. I don't know if he's ending his contract or if he has another year, but either way, I can't imagine him being a Liverpool player unless whoever comes in is like, we need Endo, which I would love, but I just don't think that's going to happen. Sadly, Andy Robertson is going to leave. I would love to extend Andy Robertson another year. I don't think that's going to happen though. Chiesa, we're rapid firing these guys. So Chiesa, similar to Endo, I know he's had his fitness issues, but he just hasn't gotten enough minutes to say confidently that he should be a Liverpool player. Do I wish that he would have been played more? Absolutely. I think he could have taken some minutes off of Gakpo. I think he could have taken some minutes off Salah. Keep some of these players fresh. Again, this was something I talked about for about an hour in the previous Liverpool special. The rotation and squad management was horrible, and that was under Arne Slot. That was under his control. He had Chiesa, he had Endo. He chose not to play them. Same with Curtis Jones, who I love, and I'm not going to be putting him in here because I hope that Liverpool can sign some sort of contract for him that he would accept. Konate. I love Konate, but the fact that the contract thing has stalled until this point, it just shows that he either isn't fully committed to being at Liverpool. Liverpool don't value him enough. Either which way, I think the time at Liverpool has come to an end, and I wish him the best. But Konate would be a player I would let go or sell. I guess we can't sell him because his contract's ending, but I would not renew Konate. I think we can bring somebody better in. We've got Jeremy Jacquet coming in. Konate, I would not be extending. This one is probably going to be somewhat controversial. McAllister. I'm going to call this one because he was fantastic in the season that Liverpool won the title. I did not, if I'm being completely honest, and I can admit when I'm wrong, I did not rate the McAllister signing from the very beginning. I thought it was a good financial move. I thought the fee that Liverpool paid for him was reasonable for what Liverpool got. Is he this top tier midfielder? I think he's got a lot of flaws to his game. I think if he's not involved in the play and the team that he's around is not playing very well, those deficiencies are going to show. And we've seen that all season. I don't know if it's from overplaying, if he's got too many minutes in his legs. McAllister has been one of Liverpool's worst players this season, bar none. Him and Konate, probably the two worst performers this season. And it's no knock on them. I think they're both class players, but either there's noise in the background, the system is not suiting them, the players around them are not suiting them. It's not right. And I think it's going to be a decision. I think logically it's a decision between McAllister and Curtis Jones. I would 100% rather keep Curtis Jones than McAllister. McAllister maybe has a higher ceiling in terms of his top performances and what he can achieve. Curtis Jones, I think, has a higher floor personally, because and Curtis Jones, people are constantly underrating the guy. I think he's a fantastic player, and if he ends up leaving to go to like a Tottenham, if they're even in the Premier League or wherever he plies his trade next, I hope that the team that signs him values him, because I think he's a class player. He's done all the like England U23s and whatever, and he's done very, very well alongside another player we'll talk about later. But Curtis Jones, underrated. I would keep him. I think he could probably be in the, obviously, squad player, but potentially pushing to be in the starting 11. We will get to that though as we get into the different positions, but I'm running through the players. There's probably only one other one that I would consider selling or allowing to go. That would be Gakpo, but I'm not going to put him in there. And that probably pains a lot of people because Gakpo has not been very good this season and he's been overplayed. But there's a reason for that. The left wing market, I think, is going to be horrible this season or this summer, unless something crazy happens from now until the transfer window opening. But I'll run through some options for a left wing type player, but my focus is going to be on the right to replace Mohamed Salah. So Cody Gakpo, I think I would just hold on to. It's also a weird situation because we've got Rio Ngamoa, who's 17 years old. You don't want to bring in like a 20-year-old left winger. That's another thing. Is like you bring in Isak and Ekitike, they're very similar ages. Like there's not that much between them. One of them is going to want to be the main starter at some point. So I think having Cody Gakpo, who I think is 27, 28, that age profile is perfectly suited. And I think if Rio makes another step forward next season, we could see a world where Rio Ngamoa is ahead of Cody Gakpo in the starting 11. So I would keep that dynamic for now, and I probably just like spewed a bunch of nonsense, but yeah, we'll talk even more about that as we get into each of the positions. But those are the players I would opt to sell or allow to leave on contract exit. So just to recap: Mohamed Salah, Endo, sadly, Robertson, Chiesa, Konate, and McAllister. And I think from there, it just makes sense to go position by position. So I've got this little tier down here where I make a decision. Let's just throw all these guys in here. And this one's going to be the easiest one to do, surely. So I'm talking goalkeeper for the audio only folks. Alisson, Mamadashvili, and Freddie Woodman. I think all of them stay. So Alisson, I think, would be the starting 11. I think Mamadashvili should be pushing him for a starting spot. And Freddie Woodman would be the third choice backup. I think it's perfectly fine. I think his contract ends this season. I think he was only given a one season contract. I would 100% sign him. I think he's got quality, definitely the quality needed for a third choice goalkeeper. He's English, so you don't need to afford an extra non-homegrown spot. So I think that's a perfect setup. I think Mamadashvili's class. Sorry about that. I swear this is a professional YouTube channel / podcast. And Alisson, these rumors to Juventus, if I was director of football, I would squash those right now. What do you want? Do you want an extra year on your deal? Let's make this happen. I think Alisson, it's kind of a perfect setup because I think he's class, but he's also very injury prone. So to have somebody like Mamadashvili, who is a starting quality goalkeeper, I think that's fine. So we've got Allison for hopefully the majority of the season, if he could stay fit. And you've got Mamardashvili to come in when he's not. And hopefully Mamardashvili also gets more cup minutes and things like that. Like, that was another thing. Why are you playing Allison in like the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup? But just play Mamardashvili. He's a great goalkeeper. Yeah, fine. So goalkeeper, that's sorted. We're keeping all of them. Now let's move on to the defenders, and let's start with center backs, because we are now, again, we're building for a 3-4-3 that could hopefully flex into a 4-3-3 at times, or if injury, whatever. But hopefully you have a squad that can have the flexibility to do both. So starting with center backs, some obvious ones. Well, let's just throw, again, we've got this tier for a reason. We've got Van Dijk, we've got Gomez, Joey G, we've got Leone, and we've also got new signing, Jeremy Jacquet will be making his first trip over to Liverpool. Okay. So we currently will have 4 on the books. I think for a 3 at the back system, you need 5. And arguably, Joe Gomez may have been playing or has already played his last Liverpool game. I hope that's not the case, because like I said in the previous video, podcast, Liverpool special, whatever you want to call it, I think Joe Gomez is another player vastly underrated. I think he has not got enough minutes playing left back or right back or even center back under Arne Slot when we desperately need like traditional players who can play like a defensive fullback position, because the team is so unbalanced. You've got Kirkez and Frimpong flying up the wings, and you've got Van Dijk and Konate just goes after everything, and then it's like Van Dijk just looking around like, I am the defense now, like I am the only defender. So I think Joe Gomez should have been played more, and I hope under Xabi Alonso, I think he would be great in a back 3 system, honestly. I don't think we've ever really seen him play in a back 3, but based on his qualities as a player, he's got great pace, so he can stretch out to the wings if he's playing like a left center back or a right center back. He's comfortable playing across all positions of the back 4, so I would love to see him in a back 3. I have called out for this in the past, to be completely honest, when we've had extra center backs, etc. But yeah, old news for this season. I think it makes sense to add 1 center back, and it would obviously be a left-sided center back. We've got Joe Gomez right-footed, Jeremy Jacquet right-footed, Van Dijk right-footed, Leone left-footed. He's young. He was injured the entire season. So I think the call would be to bring in 1 left-sided center back. And as I thought about it more, I thought it could be kind of strange to bring in 2. So I really do just think just 1 center back is fine. Also, if we're thinking like Gravenberch can kind of drop back into the center back role, to be honest, he did very well when he's deputized as a center back. So I truly think it's just 1. Some people will probably say 2, but I think 1 left side center back would be needed. And there are a few options. I think the perfect option, Nico Schlotterbeck. He's been talked about in a lot of Liverpool suggest transfer videos and whatever across football YouTube. And I have a hard time disagreeing. So let's just put the rest of these left side center backs up on the board. Nico Schlotterbeck, I think, would be ideal. Lukeba from RB Leipzig, and Senesi, who is at the end of his contract. So he would be a free signing. There are a lot of positives with that. And also, I think Senesi is highly underrated. The fact that, he was basically backup the season before, and then a starter the season before that, and now has come back into the fold and been just like unbeatable this season with Bournemouth. There's a lot of green shoots with that. He is on the older side. He's 29 years old, but to think you could maybe get like 4 seasons out of him, comfortably, and maybe he would accept being a backup rotation role, because he was a backup player at Bournemouth last season when Howson and drawing a blank on the other center back. It's not going to come to me. Dean Howson and player that I am drawing a blank on who went to PSG. Zabarni finally came, but the fact that he was a backup to those two players after he had already been a starter with Bournemouth, I think speaks to the fact that he is willing to accept a backup role. Would he accept a backup role at Liverpool? I think 100%. So maybe there is an argument that you could sneak him in and maybe loan Leone. There's a reason why I don't think Liverpool will loan Leone, which I'll talk about in a second. But yeah, so we've got these four: Nico Schlotterbeck, Lukeba, Senesi. I think the best choice is actually an achievable choice. So I would go with Nico Schlotterbeck. So he would be my pick for the starting left center back. I love Lukeba as well. I think he provides a lot of quality and would be really good in a back three. Senesi, the more that I'm kind of thinking about it, maybe we should loan out Leone. But okay, let's just jump into it. The reason why I don't think Liverpool will loan out Leone, or they won't loan him out to a non-English club, is that I believe the rule states if you sign a player before his 18th birthday, that if they spend 3 years in that country, they qualify as homegrown. And if he stays at Liverpool, he would qualify as homegrown in club. So for like Champions League, etc., you'd have to register one fewer player as a... Wait, you would be allowed to register one more non-homegrown player, if that makes sense. I play a lot of Football Manager, and I still, sometimes that trips me up. But if he qualified as homegrown in club, that would be optimal, like it is with Curtis Jones, who, yep, is down here. Curtis Jones, Trent Alexander-Arnold, but he's gone. Liverpool do have a homegrown issue, so I think he may end up staying. But if he is injured, I think Senesi would be the perfect option. And unfortunately, Lukeba would be the one missing out. So I'm going to put all the players up here into their rightful categories. Van Dijk would be undisputed center back in a back three. Jeremy Jacquet, you would be the right center back, and left center back Nico Schlotterbeck. Welcome to Liverpool. I think that would be a really good back three. And the other thing is that we talked about long balls, cutting through the midfielders, bypassing the press. Nico Schlotterbeck is excellent at that. I think that would be really good and lighten the load on some of these guys for passing, because we do not have a lot of players who can quickly transition into the attacking phase. So Nico Schlotterbeck would be ideal. And now we need to go through some backup players. And I think Joe Gomez, perfectly great, viable squad option, and same with Senesi. I think the more that I think about it, loan Leone to an English club, get the homegrown in country. Homegrown in club would have been nice, but homegrown in country is also very important and valuable. So Leone, I would put in loan. I would bring in Senesi if we can get him on a free contract. Amazing. Especially when you have somebody like Jeremy Jacquet, who he did something to his shoulder or whatever. He has been out basically the second half of the season, so he will be not as fresh as we would have liked him to be. Although I guess fresh is relative. He won't be as sharp as we would have liked him to be. Van Dijk's getting older, but I guess Senesi is not quite as old as Van Dijk, and that will be an issue for another day. But Nico Schlotterbeck, perfect age. I think his price would be attainable as well. I know he recently signed a contract, but supposedly there is some sort of agreement that if like a Liverpool or X amount of clubs, Real Madrid, Barcelona, etc., come in for him, it would be like 50 million, which I think is achievable. And I think it's a great price for somebody like Nico Schlotterbeck, who I think would suit the system down to the ground in a back three yeah, nothing else to say. Let's talk about wing backs next, because this, I think, just self-explanatory. Sorry, Lukeba. Let's put you back down here. Kirkez, Bradley, Frimpong, who has mostly been used as a wide forward winger, not as a wing back and not really as a fullback, since, I mean, he did like a little bit at the beginning of the season, but largely has not been used. So these are the three wing backs in this system that are currently in the squad. Now, we're obviously missing one because of Robertson will be leaving on a contract exit. Kirkez, I think we can make this decision pretty easily. Kirkez, I think, should be the starting wing back, and I also think Frimpong should be the starting wing back as well. Connor Bradley, injury issues have been really rough for him. I feel bad. I rate Connor Bradley immensely. I love Connor Bradley. I think he's best in maybe a back four, but we haven't seen him in a back three as a wing back. Sorry, you know what I'm trying to say. In a back three system as a wing back. So maybe that would bring new life to his game. But even if it doesn't, I think he's a perfectly serviceable squad player, potentially pushing Jeremy Frimpong for a starting position. But yeah, fantastic either way. So we still have an omission for a backup wing back. And I just don't know if I'm going to have a convincing or a satisfying suggestion for this one. So I'm going to leave it to the end. Hopefully I can think as I'm talking through the rest of these players, but it's low priority. I think if anything, Joe Gomez could play wing back, or maybe one of the wide forwards could play left wing back. It's low priority. Kirkez has not had the best season. He hasn't had as good of a season as he did at Bournemouth the season before, but he's very young. This is one of the things that I had an issue with last summer, is like, we're signing these Liverpool, very used to signing like 23, 24, 25 year olds that have had time to have seasons where they're underrated, overrated, etc. And you get an average of that, and you hopefully get the player that you're projecting to do better in the future for the system. Kirkez was 21 when he signed. I think he might have turned 22 at this point, but he's young. He hasn't had enough seasons under his belt to say confidently that he is going to be amazing for this team. He's going to have up seasons. He's going to have down seasons. I think he's just, because he's young, he's inconsistent, and that is to be expected. And I think it's great we've had Robertson play and to cover him, and maybe Robertson should have been starting more. That would be maybe my only complaint, but Kirkez, I think, will hopefully take a step forward next season. And while we will still need to bring somebody in, it's going to be a hard signing to make, because you're probably going to want to profile somebody that's a little bit older, somebody that is near the end of the contract, something that's not going to be very, very expensive, because they're going to be a backup wing back. Maybe you just bring back Tsimikas. That's probably going to be my suggestion, honestly. So we'll make a little picture for him. But yeah, I think the right wing back situation sorted. Frimpong is a perfect wing back, not an ideal right back, and not an ideal right winger either. I don't think that suits him. Right wing back, we saw how effective he could be under Xabi Alonso, and hopefully can return to that type of form. I'm going to take this quick moment to do something very uncharacteristic and ask if you are enjoying this type of content, you like this style of video, let me know if you want to see more of this. Also, share with friends, subscribe, all of that typical YouTube and podcast nonsense. I don't like to self-promote, although I kind of do, sarcastically in like every video, but this one, I'm putting a little bit more thought into it, and I'm seeing where it goes. This is not my profession, obviously. For anybody not tuning in, I'm a statistician. I like to think that I bring an analytical perspective to this type of stuff, and hopefully that shows me in a good light. Might not. But yeah, just want to take that moment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I didn't self-promote at the beginning, so we're going to throw it right in the middle, right before DMs. So let's jump over to DMs. So I would argue, on the topic of DMs, we don't really have one. We don't have a natural deep lying playmaker, or whatever you want to call it. Not a traditional 6. He has played 6 very well, and it was great under Arne Slot's first season. I think we're seeing that he wants to be moving further forward, and he can be effective further forward as well. Would I love for him to continue playing 6 so that we have some of these other players we're like trying to jam into the squad? Yeah, I would. But I just think Gravenberch's natural progression will be as an attacking 8 or as a, maybe like a box to box type 8. But we're going to cover the 3 like midfield roles, because I think even if you are going to play a 3-4-3, which obviously only has 2 midfield roles, you're going to want to cover your bases in case you want to flex to a 4-3-3, right? So I think you're going to want 2 like deep players. You're going to want like a 6, a defensive midfielder, yada, yada. You're going to want that. You're going to want 2 players that can cover that box to box, as the role indicates, that have physicality, that can be the connective tissue from defense to attack through the midfield. I see Gravenberch being in that position in the future, but for now, we'll just consider him as the deeper player. And then from there, we'll want more of like an attacking, like a 10. And we're going to want 2 of them, like an attacking 8 or a 10/10 type position. We're going to want 2 of those. So let's talk about DMs, the deep position first, because we definitely need a signing here. We've been desperate for it this season under Arne Slot, and I think we're still going to need that. I feel like we've needed this position since Fabinho dropped off his form, and that was how many years ago now? So yeah, I think we're going to need 1. I think you could argue we actually need 2 if you're going to put Gravenberch in the more box to box or attacking 8, even further forward as like a 10 type position. I'm going to argue for 2, and I've got some new ones. So let's drop Gravenberch down. Let's put him in the next bucket where we talk about box to box players. And we're going to try to bring in 2 defensive midfielders. So we've got Tchouaméni, Camavinga, Elliot Anderson, Hayden Hackney, Mateus Fernandez, and that's it. So we've got 5 options to bring, and we need to bring in, I'm going to suggest we bring in 2. It will give us enough flexibility so that if Gravenberch does want to play deeper or suits Xabi Alonso in a deeper type position, we can still do that. But yeah, and let's get the elephant in the room out of the way. Obviously, we've got 2 Real Madrid midfielders, and usually they don't tend to make that move to Liverpool. Trying to think if there have been any. There have been some the other direction. Michael Owen, obviously. Trent Alexander-Arnold, Xabi Alonso, actually. But going the opposite direction, not as common, unless I'm missing somebody very obvious. But the reason being, for Tchouaméni, the news has just come out that him and Fede Valverde have been like brawling in training. So I think that's going to be untenable. So while I'm going to spoil it, I don't think Tchouaméni is ultimately going to be my suggestion. I want to throw it out there for a couple of reasons. So yeah, there's that. Camavinga, I just think his transfer to Real Madrid, I rate Camavinga so highly. I wanted to go for Camavinga when he made the move to Real Madrid as a 18-year-old, I think it was, or maybe was he 17? He was so young when he came on, when he first started blowing up in France, obviously. I thought he was that good then. I would have hoped that Liverpool would have made a move for him, because we desperately, this was like kind of maybe a little bit before the time when we ended up signing McAllister. This was the guy I would have wanted. He's still 23 and he has a ton of experience. So I think he would be fantastic, but I just think he has never, and I don't understand why he would want to stay when he's like playing as a left back and all these random roles that just don't suit him. When he was in France playing as a defensive midfielder, his defensive contributions were absolutely insane. He was getting like 16 a game. It was maybe not that much, but you know what I'm trying to say. He was defensive beast, very great at carrying the ball further forward. He had a very complete game for how young he was. And then he gets to Real Madrid, the biggest club in the world. They've got Cruz, they've got Modric, they've got Casemiro, they've got Tchouaméni as well. And it's just, he's played quite a bit, but not as much as I would have anticipated for that player. I would have not like a dad or anything, but if I were to have some sort of like parental knowledge, or if I was speaking to him, I would have told him to go to a club that is going to guarantee him minutes. Not that that's impacted his time with the French national team or anything, but Real Madrid, great experience, and he's won a ton of trophies. So who am I to argue? But I'm a huge Camavinga fan. I hope he really doesn't go to Manchester United if he does, because that's been a big rumor. But I would love for him to come to Liverpool. I think he will move from Real Madrid this summer. Especially off of the back of that terrible performance in the Champions League. I think it could be a potential option. I am concerned that it might not be the best suited to how Liverpool are playing right now, but I have to put him in the conversation because I love Camavinga. The player next to him, Elliot Anderson, absolutely phenomenal. I think he's probably the most ideal signing for this position. Will it happen? I am not so confident. I think it's going to be very expensive. I think he's almost dead certain to go to Man City. And it's a bummer, but I just think this is a consequence of overspending on Florian Wirtz and Alexander Isak. If we had done something more reasonable, like I love Isak. I think he's a great player. I don't think he really suits like a Liverpool. He's not like a Liverpool type of signing. I don't know. He feels much more Arsenal coded to me. Anyways, if we didn't sign Isak because we had just signed Ekitike for 80 million, and we signed somebody like, I don't know, João Pedro, who was less than half of what Isak went for, or I don't know, what's his name? Jonathan David, who was a free contract and hasn't been great for Juventus, but who would have done that? Imagine like Elliot Anderson, welcome to Liverpool. That would have been an easy signing, but because we've now made some unnecessary big overpayments, I don't think that's going to be on the table. And that's a bummer because, again, for all the people that are shouting, you're not an accountant, you're not whatever, it's not your money. This is one of the reasons why I would not have supported signing Ekitike and Isak. I think you sign one of them. Do you need to sign £200 million worth of forwards who can only play in the same freaking position? No, that's dumb. And this is a consequence of that. So Elliot Anderson, ultimately, I'm not going to be recommending him, but I think he would be perfect. Hayden Hackney, I think he's a great option. I've been suggesting him for probably a year and a half now. I think he's been one of the best players in the championship for 2 seasons at least. And his progressive pass numbers are off the charts. And we need progressive passing from somewhere because it's not coming from our midfield and used to come from our right back. And it's definitely not coming from there anymore. So we need players who can transition the ball quickly so that we can make fast breaks, use pace on the wings. This is one of the reasons why Arne Slot's system has looked so slow. We have nobody who can progress the ball very quickly to get it to Mohamed Salah, Ekitike, etc. It happens very rarely in the game. That's why we get caught up in so many short passes and ultimately we allow for the deep block to happen so desperately, like every single match, because we don't have quick transition players. So Hayden Hackney, I think that he would be amazing. Mateus Fernandes, who this one's tricky because I actually have no idea how expensive he may be. He just transferred from Southampton to West Ham, but if West Ham go down, which they're looking likelier to do than I would have suggested, a couple of weeks ago when Tottenham were not able to pick up any points under De Zerbi. They're 2 back-to-back wins, or maybe like a win and a draw. And Tottenham are looking like they are probably more likely to get out of the relegation battle than West Ham. So if West Ham go down, is there a world where the contract situation allows him to get some sort of cheaper deal? I don't know, but I think he is a good option as well. So let's go through kind of more statistical stuff for these players. Maybe I should have done it for the center backs, but center backs are pretty challenging to do statistical analysis for because it's so team dependent and based on how much possession you have of the ball. So yeah, let's talk about that for these defensive midfielders. So I'm going to jump over to FotMob where all these stats live because FBref is absolute garbage now. I don't know if you've been on FBref. I think they lost their license with StatBomb, whatever. And yeah, it's like a graveyard. But FotMob, not bad. It's not a bad alternative. And they are not sponsoring this video or podcast, although I would love to work with them because actually I really do enjoy FotMob. I've been loyal member user for several years. So looking at Elliot Anderson, who I think is about as ideal as a defensive midfield signing could possibly be for a variety of reasons. So I'm going to scroll down. We're going to make everything per 90. We're not concerned about his shooting prowess, although I think his technique is underrated, pretty decent. Successful passes per 90, about 54. Successful passes, 85%. I think that's pretty decent for a midfielder, especially somebody if you're trying to progress the ball. Let's see, accurate long balls, about 3 per game, with an accuracy of about 55%. Good. Successful crosses. We don't really need that much of a crosser from a DM, so I'm going to discount that. Decent dribbler. Dribble percentage maybe could be a little bit higher. But what we really need Elliot Anderson for, aerial duels 1, about 2 a game with about a 60% win rate. Whereas defensive contributions, this is really it. Almost 14 per game on average. For the FPL fans out here, you understand why he gets 2 extra points every single game, essentially. It's because he's getting about 14 defensive contributions a match, and you need 12, obviously. But so yeah, defensive contributions, which are going to be comprised of his tackle numbers, which are amazing, about 3, recoveries, about 8. He gets dribbled by about 1, a little over 1 time per match. Maybe that needs a little bit of work, but you would hopefully hope that in a system he'd have a little better help around him and wouldn't be dribbled past as much. Let's see, clearances, fine. But yeah, this main reason, defensive contributions, absolute beast, workhorse. And if Liverpool need anything, it is more industry in their midfield. I love Gravenberch. I think he does very well. Like, he is more industrious than I think people give him credit for, but him next to somebody like McAllister, who is not industrious, at least not to Elliot Anderson's standard or to basically any of these players' standard, I think you need somebody with a little bit more defensive grit. So Elliot Anderson would be choice number 1, but again, the ideal pick that I don't think we're going to get. Camavinga is going to profile pretty similarly, actually. So defensive contributions, 7, so half, but 7 is pretty good. That's why Elliot Anderson is like an outlier. Absolutely insane. Especially in a team like Real Madrid, they're going to have like 65% possession on average in most of these league games. That means that you have less of a chance to get defensive contribution. So if you swapped the two, I would probably imagine that Camavinga would be getting close to 12, 13, 14 defensive contributions. And if Anderson was at Real Madrid, he'd probably drop way down to 7. So while this is what I'm trying to say by it's not necessarily transferable, because when you play in a team with more possession, things are going to adjust. But that doesn't discount that these two players are fantastic defensively and would be great signings. So Camavinga has a great overall game, especially defensively. Successful on the dribble 65% of the time, very good. Duels won percentage over 60%. Aerial duels 55%. Yeah, just a defensive monster. I think he's great carrying the ball. I think he does lack being able to progress the ball through passing, at least compared to some of these other players. Like, are we able to see like long balls, accurate long? Actually, I take it back. Accurate long balls, 71%. That's really good. And about 3 per match. That's outstanding. Like Trent was putting up, I think like 7 successful long balls per match. But yeah, he's an absolute monster with that. But Camavinga, my clock is ticking. Not a phrase, not the phrase I was looking for, but the cogs are turning on this transfer, and I don't think I have to squint anymore to see it. So Camavinga, I'm talking about you. I wanted to include Tchouaméni, not just because he's been brawling with Valverde, but one of the reasons I think Tchouaméni in particular could be a really good signing for Liverpool would be if we do stick with a 4-3-3 type setup. I think because he has so much experience playing as a center back for Real Madrid, I think you could play him as a DM that drops into the defense, and you wouldn't need to sign like a Senesi, maybe even using him as a center back at times. Sorry, bump the mic. But Tchouaméni I would recommend because, yeah, he can play that DM role and drop in so that it forms a back three. Even if we're playing a 4-3-3 on paper, when he drops back, like Gravenberch has kind of done effectively sometimes, he is like truly a center back in a back three, and it gives a little bit more license to Kirkez and Frimpong or Bradley or whatever. So that would have been the reason. So I think in a lot of ways, tactically, Tchouaméni might be the best fit of all of them, even including Anderson. Is he attainable? His age profile, I think, is still good. He's 26 years old. If we look at his statistical profile, you'll see a lot of the same stuff. Let's see, successful pass rate, 91%. You would expect that at like a Real Madrid. Not as successful in the long balls as a Camavinga, for instance, only doing about 2 accurate ones per match. Possession, very good. Aerial duel, you would expect from Tchouaméni. Defensive contributions, very good. Again, like 6.5 is really good. He's dribbled past like 1 every 2 games. Yeah, I think great statistical profile from Tchouaméni. I think he would be a great fit and possibly the best tactical fit of all the players, just for his awareness to drop into the center defense if we were to play a 4-3-3 to form a back three at times. So Tchouaméni, that's another one. Now we're going to look at a very different statistical profile. And this is a player I think 100% we should try to sign. Maybe he won't be starting, and maybe that is not what he wants. Maybe he doesn't want to be a squad player that grows into it, but he's 23 years old, perfect age profile. And then if we look at his stats, again, we're not concerned about the shooting. The passing is where it really comes to shine. So accurate long balls. Actually, I would have expected that to be a lot higher. Only two per match. That I'm concerned there. Is it from this season because he's playing like higher up the pitch? Okay. I'm going to apologize because, yeah, in previous seasons, you would have seen this accurate long balls or like progressive passes be like off the charts. I haven't, all of this is like live and fresh. So this is why it's so unprofessional. But Hayden Hackney, not as good defensively, but historically very good at threading balls through the midfield, progressing it to the attack. And I'm actually, since I'm doing this kind of live, as so to speak, yeah, I'm surprised. I mean, his chances created still good, about 2.25. Successful passes, very good for a team in the championship that are not going to have as much possession as like a Real Madrid, for instance. Accurate long balls, about 60%. That's good, but this number of accurate, like the volume, I would have expected to be a lot more, but I think maybe that could be situational because when I saw this last season, he was playing more as like a CM DM, primarily DM, but this is showing up that he's been playing left wing, attacking mid and center mid. So maybe I haven't watched enough championship to see he's been playing further up the pitch and thus he's not utilizing progressive passes, etc. But Hayden Hackney, because I know what you can do, and statistically, maybe it's not as present this season, but I think that this little hexogram, I can't remember what these are called, looks pretty good. So he's in like the top 1% for touches, shots attempted, chances created, goals pretty good, and then the defensive side of the game not as good. But that's this season. But Hayden Hackney, putting all that aside, English, homegrown, would fit the quota. We need more English homegrown players. So he's going to be high up my list. And if we end up signing 2 for this DM position, he would 100% be the like squad option player if it was possible to do that. Do we have anybody else? Oh yeah, Mateus Fernandez. My headphones are dying, so I'm going to have to charge those in a sec. But Mateus Fernandez, he's going to profile very similarly to like a Camavinga, Tchouaméni, etc. Defensively, really good. He does play more of like a box-to-box role, but like a defensive box-to-box because he's everywhere in midfield. And you could see that drawn out in his number. He's getting about 11 defensive contributions per match, drawn out through, tackles, clearances, recoveries, etc. But defensive monster, he covers a lot of ground, so physically he would be very good. And maybe in the future he would transition to an 8 or maybe even further up the pitch. But I think for the time being, limit your game, play what suits your physicality, etc., and focus on what you're good at a bigger club like Liverpool. And if it was possible to get him on like a cut deal, if they did go down, I think he would be very favorable. Duels won about 6 with a 55% chance rate. This is like lining up with all the players, so there's really not much between them statistically, which is good. I think we've done a good job of profiling the type of player we need, apart from maybe Hayden Hackney, who is different. But between Mateus Fernandez, Camavinga, Tchouaméni, even Elliot Anderson, we're kind of touching on a lot of the same things. So let's go back to the tier list and we'll start making decisions. Okay, we're back and I've made up my mind. I'm too in love with this guy. Camavinga, to Liverpool. I was kind of shocked. Maybe I'm just not as familiar with how the FotMob presents their stats, and I'm more used to like FBref, Understat, etc. But I was kind of blown away by the number of accurate long balls and the percentage. So that if he can bring that to his game, I didn't even realize that was a part of his game. If he can bring that to Liverpool, that would be much needed, because again, like I said, players that progress the ball through passing, Nico Schlotterbeck, who has not been in the squad, obviously, Virgil van Dijk, who is one man, and that's it. Everyone else is trying to dribble the ball neatly through the midfield, but we need somebody who could play those long balls every once in a while. Somebody that just has it in their locker, so if the opportunity arises, we can do that. So Camavinga, you would be in. Hayden Hackney, squad player. I think he would be a perfect backup for that deep position. I think he's got a lot of development to do as well. And while it's not ideal to sign 2 players who are 23 for the same position, I think you could easily play Camavinga further forward as an 8. If you end up selling some other players down the line, you could play Hayden Hackney. Obviously can play further forward, as he showed this season, apparently, which I was kind of clueless to. But yeah, both of those, welcome to Liverpool. And unfortunately, I think all these players are great, but we're going to have to discount them. Elliot Anderson, I think, would be perfect, but again, I just don't think it's going to happen. And I don't think financially it would happen. Would Camavinga cost less than Elliot Anderson? 100%. I would imagine he would cost somewhere between even 40 and 60 million. That's like a drop in the bucket compared to Elliot Anderson. Elliot Anderson is going to cost over 80, easily 100, 120. He could definitely go for that based on the merit of what he's done this season. His numbers are off the chart, and if he can bring that to a Man City, that's dangerous. Again, would love for him to come to Liverpool. I don't think it's as realistic as Camavinga. So for that reason, Shark Tank. Okay. Moving on to the 8th position. So now we've upgraded Gravenberch into this like box to box position. I think we've got 3. And I think we're going to have to live with that. Maybe Szoboszlai we can, oh, you know what? I actually forgot one. Trey Neone. I think we're going to keep all 3. I think this one's obvious. We're going to start Gravenberch. I would keep Curtis Jones as a squad player who is hopefully pushing. So yeah, I'll throw him up a notch. And Trey, squad player. I think he needs to get more minutes. I think he's been great. He has played kind of like maybe further forward as well, but I think Trey Neone needs to get some more time, and I would obviously keep him as a squad player. If we need to make some squad room, a loan would be fine as well, but I think he's ready for more first team minutes. You know what? For the purpose of this, I'm going to throw him into loan right now. Maybe he does need a Premier League loan. But yeah, so that I think is going to do it for the 8s. Let's just move on to the 10s. We're moving at rapid pace. Obviously, we haven't gotten to one of the problem issues, which we're going to talk about soon. But the 10s, I think, are pretty easy. So we've got Florian Wirtz and we've got Szoboszlai. One of them can start. Maybe 2 of them, depending on the setup. If we are playing a 3-4-3, we could play 2 attacking 8s or 10. We could play 2 10s behind like an Isak or an Ekitike. But for the most part, I think one of them is going to be starting. And it's tough. I love both players. This is why I would not have signed Florian Wirtz. Great player. He's brilliant. I think he is going to show that he is worth 120 mil or whatever we paid for him. But at the moment, when you have a player like Szoboszlai performing to the levels that he has, it was an unnecessary signing. And I would have rather the money gone somewhere else. But yeah, so for this, I'm going to put Florian Wirtz in starting and Szoboszlai in pushing. I think I think this one's even tough because I feel like he's kind of straddling these 2. Like he should be starting realistically, but you signed Florian Wirtz for way too much money. You know what? I'm going to throw both of them in starting. If we have 12 players on the pitch, is that allowed? No, I joke, but yeah, they're both going to start. We'll figure it out. We'll get 11 at the end of the starting 11 at some point. Where should we go next? Should we talk about right wing, or should we talk about left wing? Should we talk about striker? I guess we're kind of there. Let's go through the easy ones first. You know what? I'm actually going to make this accurate. We're gonna have 11 players in our starting 11. And the reason being is, let's talk about left wing. This is easy. We've got Rio and Gamoa. We've got Cody Gakpo. Rio, I think you could argue he should be pushing at some point. He should be pushing in this team right now. In the team I'm putting together, he should be a good squad player. And I think that's what you should do for a player who is that young. You incorporate them in the squad. You play them in Carabao Cup, FA Cup, playing them in the Premier League off the bench. At the moment, we're like dying for Rio to get on the pitch because he's the only player with any pace in his legs. In the team that I'm hopefully putting together, we have more pace up top. But for the left wing, I think Rio, and again, it's like a left wing or a left 10, which I think he could play both. But Rio, squad player, and Cody Gakpo, also a squad player. So I think actually we'll do this. We can put together an 11 at the end of this video, but in my vision, I'm thinking Wirtz is like a left 10 and maybe Szoboszlai's in the midfield. We have to figure that out, but we will, and I promise we will. So we'll throw it together at the end on one of those formation builder apps. I think FotMob has one as well. God, I'm like bumping into the mic constantly. Again, this is a professional. No, it's not. Okay. Let's go through the next obvious one. We've got Alexander Isak and we've got Ekitike. This one's going to be very quick. Because Ekitike got hurt and may be out for some of next season as well, which is horrible because I think up to the point that he got injured, I would probably put Ekitike above Alexander Isak. He just performed so much better. I think he's suited to how Liverpool play. Going back to this last summer, I wouldn't have signed Isak. I think he's a brilliant player. I think everyone apart from me would agree that if you have the opportunity to sign a player like him who basically guarantees you 20 goals a season, although he doesn't. Obviously, we've seen that this season. He has been hurt a lot, but he's about as close to a guarantee of 20 goals a season in the Premier League as you can get. And while it didn't happen and he did break his leg, I just don't think it was worth the money. I thought it was always going to be awkward with Newcastle just like holding on desperately until the very end. And again, I just don't think, as a Liverpool fan, I don't really see him fitting into the mold of, and maybe that's not how I should be thinking, but it doesn't really fit into the mold of what I envision a Liverpool striker to be at. Like, I mean, I'm thinking from my memory of being a Liverpool fan, Bobby Firmino, obviously, he's not really like any of these guys, although maybe you could argue he's closer to Ekitike, definitely closer to Ekitike than Isak. You got Fernando Torres, and I think Ekitike is like as much as a carbon copy of Fernando Torres when he first broke onto the scene as you could possibly get. Isak, I just feel like I don't know, it's overly simplistic, but he does kind of remind me of like an Henry type, maybe because they have kind of like a similar frame. But again, this is nonsense. I'm not talking anything coherent, but I would have signed Ekitike and I would have signed somebody else that was going to be a clear second choice, not two first choices that are basically the same age, basically fighting for the same role. And there's one position. Okay, and for all of those reasons, Isak, you are going to be in the starting 11. This is not dragging. You are fit and you don't have an injury currently. So ideally, again, my headphones are going to die. You are going to be starting in this hypothetical situation, Ekitike 100% pushing for a starting 11 position. So that's the forward. And now we are down to right wing. So I'm going to take a small break, recover, and charge my headphones, and I'll be back for right wing. And I have returned to talk about right wing. I have drank water. My headphones are charged. I'm ready to go into this final stretch of the podcast. Maybe not, because I have to clear my throat 2 times. Right wing, I think, is probably the most important signing across all of the signings that we're suggesting here, because I think you can probably get the other ones wrong to a level, but if you get the right wing correct and you sign the right player who suits the system, I think it still works. I think this is probably the most consequential position out of all the ones that we've really discussed today. So I've got some players up on the board. Michael Olise, as I've discussed, he would be the perfect signing. Is it going to happen? Is it realistic? Not in this reality, unfortunately. Again, I think I mentioned I would have signed Olise when he made the move from Crystal Palace to Bayern Munich, but unfortunately we didn't. And we signed Cody Gakpo, I think that in that year, or we made other signings and other preferences when we should have been signing somebody that could replace Mohamed Salah, because now we are here and Olise is now unattainable, and that stinks. So next to him, and again, if I haven't said it already, Olise is not going to be my recommendation. I would love for it to have been my recommendation, but I just don't think financially it could be possible. Next to him, we've got Magnus Akliush from Monaco, And we've got Karim Adeyemi from Borussia Dortmund. You will also see a familiar figure here, Harvey Elliott, who is currently on loan with Aston Villa and who I think under Arne Slot in the season we won the league did not get a fair shake. I think every time he was on the pitch, I think he played fantastic. I don't know what more he could have done. Maybe it was the way he was training or what, but I love Harvey Elliott. I think he's a fantastic player. And again, under this Xabi Alonso system, I think he would be perfect for that right 10 role. And I think I might have said this in the previous Liverpool special, but Harvey Elliott is not quite a 10. He's not quite a winger, but as like a right 10 in a 3-4-2-1, whatever, 3-4-3 type setup that Xabi Alonso employed, I think Harvey Elliott could actually be amazing. And while he may not be a starting option, I think he should be getting the minutes he deserves as the player he has, because he's a fantastic player. I think he's done a lot for Liverpool, and I think he's at an age where he's still very young. How old is he? I need to check that, but he's at an age where he can now make a leap forward. And I would hate for that to be at another club, because we signed him. We did all the dirty work to get him from Fulham, and he loves Liverpool. You could see the passion. You're telling me that he could not have, like, Chiesa couldn't have been the guy out the door and Harvey Elliott would have been the guy taking those random minutes? Like, you're killing me. So Harvey Elliott, I'm going to put him back into consideration. We obviously are going to need 2 right wing type players. And these are the ones I'm going to recommend. This has been a long podcast, so I apologize if I forgot anything. I'm obviously not going to go through all the footage, but Yan Diomande is not in consideration here. Again, like Elise, I think he's going to be way too expensive. He's probably going to be over 90 million, whereas I think Akliouche and Karim Adeyemi, who will have 1 year left on his contract, these are attainable options. These are very good options. They're mature. They're 24. Both of them are 24 years old, I believe. Maybe Adeyemi's 23. I always get tripped up. I always think Adeyemi is like 27 because he's been playing for so long. He has so much experience. He's 24. I'm pretty confident. So, back to Yan Diomande. He's 19 years old. He's basically had 1 season of like top flight football. And while RB Leipzig did an amazing job recruiting him from Leganés, I don't know. It was like a Segunda division in Spain. He's an amazing talent. But like Rio, he's so young and has so little experience. You haven't had the opportunity to see him go through a slump or not perform or, basically have like a bad season. You haven't seen that. You've only seen a good season from him because that's when he's been in the limelight. Now, is he worth the risk? I mean, potentially. I think he could be, but I don't think Liverpool are in a position to take that type of risk when you're signing the replacement of Mohamed Salah. And while you're never going to get that type of output from whoever you sign, regardless, even if you signed Elise, you're not going to get Salah type output. You're going to have to get it in the aggregate, as they say. There's just it's such a risk, and the amount of money it would probably cost to get Diomande, 70, 80, 90 million. I think that's a bit steep for me. So I will not be recommending Diomande either, although I think he could be a great Liverpool signing. And apparently he's a Liverpool fan as well. So who knows what is going to happen, but that's not what I would recommend. So it's not what I think should happen, but it might, you know what I'm trying to say. So we can make this decision a little bit easier. And by the way, I have looked at all sorts of different players, and these are the ones I've kind of narrowed it down to, but let's make things very simple. Harvey Elliott, I think 100% should be a squad player or pushing. And Elise is not going to be recommended. So between Akliouche and Adeyemi, who do I think would be the best profile to fit that right wing position to replace Mohamed Salah? But again, like, we're not replacing Salah. We are having a player play in similar positions as a Liverpool player. If that makes sense. So let's look at the stats. We've narrowed it down to 2. Let's look at the stats and see what might be a better profile for Liverpool. And to start it off, let's just bask in the glory of Michael Olise. So as you can see from the hexagon chart, goals in the top 3 percentile, shots attempted top 3, top 0% of touches, chances created. He's just a phenomenal player. If we do it per 90, oh my God, he's got 15 goals this season. Okay, but per 90, he's getting a goal like at more than every other game. So 0.6 goals per game. Shots over almost 4 a game. Amazing. Assist 0.75 assists per 90 is absolutely insane. Expected assist 0.65, so that's good. Dribbles amazing. Duels 1 good. Touches in opponent box. Defending, we don't need that. No, of course we do, but yeah, that's fine. For somebody of his quality, you're not going to see a lot of defending from them, so that's, yeah, absolutely fine. It's really these top line metrics: shooting, goals, XG, XA, assists, whatever. And Olise is just the perfect candidate for it, for a potential Salah replacement. But yeah, we did not sign him in 2024 when he went for like 50 million, 60 million, maybe. I don't know. And now his transfer is in US dollars. Sorry, everybody, but 180 USD. Okay, let's go over to the real actual target. So Karim Adeyemi, I'm going to preface this by saying I have been a huge fan of Karim Adeyemi for a very long time. And again, he's maybe I think he's 27 years old because he wears the 27 shirt, but he is indeed 24 years old, and he just turned 24, Jan. So let's start piecing through his stats. Total, he's got 7 goals, but he's only played 1,100 minutes or about 1,200 minutes, which I think is like 1390s. So if we look at it per 90, he's like got a goal every other game, which is outrageous. So I had some concerns about, obviously, the amount of game time that he's played is a lot lower than I would have hoped. He has had injury issues. To be completely honest, I'm a little confused. So maybe somebody can help me out in the comments. Transfermarkt is saying he's only been out for 4 games, but that doesn't add up. So I know that he has had injury issues in the past. I think the previous season he was out like at least half of the season with some sort of muscle tear. But this season, it doesn't show that he's been injured. So I don't know if maybe it's like a system thing. And I know some of these stats, like the goals, are going to be inflated because there are times where they're playing a 3-5-2 and he's playing as a striker. So you'll see, like, yeah, playing as like an attacking mid, winger, striker mix. But we've seen him across the front 3. We know he can play. He's versatile. He can play all positions. He is left-footed. He is absolutely rapid. He's got great technique. I love him as a player. I think he would be phenomenal. So apart from the goals per 90, got good level of chance creation. He's got 0.23 assists per 90. Again, these are not like as good as Olise, but pretty damn good for a player that's in a markedly worse team. Successful dribbles, 2 per game. Aerial duels 1, pretty good. You know, you're not going to expect short attacking player. He's like 5'7", 5'9". Yeah, he's 5'9". We're not expecting him to win aerial duels, but he can. Let's see. What are the? You can't really pay attention to the green marks. I found that you really just need to look at the raw numbers because they rank these kind of weirdly sometimes. But yeah, touches in the opponent box, not bad. Yeah, so statistically, his profile, the biggest thing that we would weight towards is XG, goals, XA, assists, and then watching his overall game. And having watched him, I think he would be an amazing signing. Injury issues are a concern, definitely, but if you have a Harvey Elliott who can play that kind of role, or other play like Szoboszlai or Wirtz or whatever, like this is a very fluid squad that we are hopefully putting together. The thing that I think he brings to the table that nobody else does, apart from Rio, is his pace. So yeah, he is phenomenal with the ball at his feet or running in behind. Karim Adeyemi, definitely up there for me. But there's one other good option, and that's Magnus Akliouche, who slightly different profile. I would say he's probably more similar to an Elise type, more of a creator, not as good on the fast break. Same height, same age. They both just turned 24, actually. So very dangerously similar. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, totally flipped in terms of goals. And actually no, his assist numbers are comparable to Adeyemi. This is what I'm trying to say by you can't pay attention to the green, because yeah, I think it was orange or whatever for Adeyemi, who has the same amount of assists. But goals are fewer, expected goals, XG is fewer, is less, whatever. But generally watching his style of play, he is kind of more of almost like he's in a, I'm not trying to draw a super comparison between him and Harvey Elliott, but he does straddle that line between winger and like a 10. So he's going to be very creative, maybe not as quick, not going to be seeing balls in behind, and his defensive contributions are not as bad. Like, yeah, pretty good. Recoveries 5. Defensive contributions per 90 is a little less than 3, which pretty good from an attacking player. And that is another thing that Liverpool pressing from the front has completely gone away, like since Klopp left. But yeah, passing success, very good for an attacking player. That's amazing. 85%. I mean, you get those kinds of numbers from like center backs. So that's great. Accurate long balls, about 2 long balls per game. Yeah. So again, I think this does paint a picture, maybe not as clear as I would have liked, but more of a creator, more of like a 10 playing as a winger type. But maybe that, like, if we were to keep, or, you know, if we were to bring in Xabi Alonso, maybe he does want somebody like Magnus Akliouche, who is more of a controller, somebody who's going to be better on the ball potentially than like Adeyemi, but is not going to be stretching the play with transition and running in behind. So I think both are viable, but we got to make a decision. So let's jump back to the tier list. Hopefully that was explanatory enough, and let's decide between these two, because they're both great. I think both stack up very well. And like I said, I think I would be happy with either of these if it was my choice. And actually there is a difference in the likely cost, because Adeyemi is going to have 1 year left on his deal. I would be signing Adeyemi. And again, maybe some of my bias is coming out, because like Camavinga is one of my favorite players. Adeyemi is one of my favorite players to watch outside of Liverpool. But yeah, I think this is a great opportunity to bring both of them in, and you're going to have Xhaka and potentially Schlotterbeck. Can you sign both of these players? Well, if one of them has 1 year left on his contract and one has some sort of agreement in his new contract that Liverpool can sign him for a reasonable fee, I think you do that. So let's review the transfers in, transfers out. And I think actually it kind of lines up, because if we look at the sales or contract exits, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And who are we bringing in? We're also loaning players out, but bringing in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 if you're counting Harvey Elliott as well. But then you have loans out. Neoni, Trey, and Leone and Neoni, if that makes sense. But Trey and Leone loaned out. And I think that's the right move. If you can get lower Premier League loans for both of them, especially considering Leone has been out for an entire season, I think it could be good to get some more experience and not like jump right back into Liverpool. So this is my recommendation. Let me know what you think. Let's jump over to the like lineup builder so we can actually see what this looks like in practice, because it would be 4 new signings right into the starting 11. That's a lot. It's another thing that I think Liverpool has done. Some of it is forced upon them, but it's doing too much in the transfer market. And now we kind of have to do too much because the squad is all out of sorts. And you could probably argue like Cody Gakpo should be sold and somebody else signed, but I like this. Do we have 11 players in the starting 11? That should be cue number 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have 12. I am an idiot. We need to drop 1 player down before I lose it. This is so hard. Like how can you drop any of these guys? And it's gonna have to be a midfield player. Sorry. Got like 200 million pushing. They should be 100% starters, but going off of merit and how Liverpool, I would like them to set up to play, it's going to be Szoboszlai in this midfield, or like attacking midfield, whatever you want to call it. Let's jump over to the squad builder and see how this starting 11 looks in practicality. And we are looking at the squad, or the players that we have already signed in a Xabi Alonso system. So in goal, Alisson; center back, Van Dijk; right center back, Jeremy Jacquet; left center back, we haven't filled that in yet; left wing back, Kirkez; center mid, Gravenberch; other center mid, haven't filled it in; right wing back, Frimpong; one of the attacking 10s, Szoboszlai; one of the attacking 10s, Blank; and then Isak up top. So let's fill those in with the players that we recommended, and I'll do that in a sec. And look what we have here. That is a beautiful, much more functional lineup, I think. So we've got Adeyemi filling in this attacking right wing role. And I think we could change this so it's like free form, so I can move these guys around a little bit. But yeah, you can see, whoa, hello? Hello, is this gonna work? Okay, freeform is not working at the moment. But you could kind of see, like, if Adeyemi, just imagine him moving up to this like striker position with Isak, and Szoboszlai kind of tucking in as a 10, and then you kind of flip that triangle so it's a little bit more. Oh my god, this is this is chaos. Let me hold on. I actually figured it out. It's because I had zoomed in slightly. So yeah, I can actually move these guys around a little bit, but it's a little less zoomed in, so I apologize. But yeah, let's play around with this a little bit. So Adeyemi moves up into like kind of a striker position because he's going to be making runs in from behind. You could just imagine that, right? And then you've got Kirkez flying up, you've got Frimpong flying up, you've got Camavinga holding the width over here, Gravenberch holding the width over here, and then you've got a core center back there, center back trio there. So I really do think a 3-4-3 or 3-5-2, whatever you want to call it, some combination of these players on the pitch, I think far more functional. And I want to address one thing that I think I've seen quite a bit. It's like, you need to get more goals in the team to win games. And yeah, while I agree, but I also think having a functional side, and while yeah, it's not as sexy to have wing backs, nobody's arguing that. Like, obviously I'd rather have true wingers playing, but a team that is more functional is going to be able to, number one, hopefully concede fewer goals, because the team right now is just out of sorts. We've got no defense. It's basically Van Dijk against the world. Offensively, we can't connect anything together. The press is horrible. It's broken. We can't progress the ball from defense to attack. It's completely dysfunctional. So we're conceding more goals and we are creating fewer chances than if we were just have a functional side that I would assume would, something like this would probably concede fewer goals. I don't even think that's arguable. This side would concede fewer goals than the side that is playing in 25-26 this season's Liverpool. No doubt. I also think that this side would create more goals than we have this season. And that's kind of like, I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's like a tough call to make because you would have had Mohamed Salah coming off of a historic season. You got Cody Gakpo, who is good but not great, but he can contribute as well. And then you're signing Isak, Verts, Ekitike. You would have assumed more goals went into that side, but that's where it falls apart, right? Like, you cannot just sign these guys and hope that it works in a system that's clearly broken. It's not a functioning team. In a functioning team like this side probably scores more goals than Liverpool this season. Would I bet my house on it? Maybe not my house, but I would bet that this side would concede fewer goals and score more goals, would have gotten more points on the board, because at the end of the day, that's what it's about. It's about winning matches. It's not just about getting goals into the team per se by signing Isak, Ekitike, and Verts. You need to fit them into a system that works. And I think based off the team that we have, that Richard Hughes put together, which again, I would not have made some of these signings, and we would have probably played a 4-3-3 with a little bit more flexibility. But then you sign Verts, you sign Kirkez, you sign Frimpong, you kind of fall into a system like this. So yeah, I think this is a better, more fluid system. I'm going to move things around and probably swap some players out as well to see what it would look like if we were to play a 4-3-3 with the players that I've talked about signing. Okay, now we've swapped over to a 4-3-3, kind of a more traditional, for lack of a better term, Liverpool setup. I'm going to zoom in just to kind of show the players, and then I'll zoom back out so I can freeform it up. But in goal, Alisson, obviously. Left back, Kirkez. Left center back, Schlotterbeck. Right center back, Van Dijk. Right back, Connor Bradley, because in a fourth-back system, I think he's much more suited to that than a Frimpong. Then in the midfield, going with Szoboszlai, Camavinga, and Gravenberch. In the forward line, Florian Wirtz off the left, Alexander Isak, and Karim Adeyemi on the right wing. Now let's kind of mold this around to see if, like, in different phases of play, what it could revert into or look like. I'm just going to say, I love this freeform thing because I love moving the players around. But yeah, so now that we have a 4-3-3, we can see in, like, if Kirkez was going to bomb up again. Okay, I just complimented you, bro. Move. Okay, here we go. If Kirkez was to bomb up, as he does, and create width, same with Connor Bradley, we could have Camavinga, I think, drop a little bit deep. These guys pinch in. I think you'd have Florian Wirtz coming into the midfield. And then you'd have these two right here. So you'd have this attacking five, and that's a very common setup in football, is having a set of attacking five that does resemble this quite a bit. And this would be what it would look like in, like, an attacking phase of play. So I think this works. And I think defensively, it's probably enough. It's better than what we have this season, because you have somebody like Camavinga over a McAllister. And while Wirtz is not a classic left winger, you would want him coming in. And then Szoboszlai, just do your thing, dude. He is physicality incarnate, and he's going to run. Same with Gravenberch. But now you have somebody who's holding the place right here and can allow for these guys to press and allow for Bradley or Frimpong or Kirkez or whatever to get forward. And I think that's deeply been lacking, because what we've seen with Arne Slot, the system this season, if I can move things back into, we'll just keep it like this, because we have played a diamond formation under Slot. What we have seen is we've seen, like, Frimpong yeah, since it prompted me, let's get him on the pitch. We've had a Frimpong, who's lost his name, be way up here. And then we do this, and Kirkes like tucks inside. So Slot wants Kirkes to like come inside. This is not Kirkes' game. He is not that good defensively. He has a lot. He could develop into that, but this is not what he's good at. And it's really harsh for a young player to be tasked with aspects of your game that are not refined at all. Like, we know what Kirkes can do when he gets into like this phase of the play, when he gets the ball on a break and is able to, he's one of the best crossers in the team, I would say. I was about to say the league, but that's hyperbolic. But Kirkes is amazing on cutting the ball back, spraying this ball across, but as like a tucked in left back, no, that's just not his game. Like, this is why this should be Joey G. Joe Gomez, because Joe Gomez was amazing. If you remember that season under Jurgen Klopp when he was playing as left back, because I think Tsimikas and Robertson were both hurt for like an extended period of time. We only had Gomez. He was perfect right here. He would tuck into midfield. He would tuck into as like a center back in a 3 and allow Trent to go forward. We needed somebody like that this season, and we thought it was Slot thought it was Kirkes for some reason, based on nothing. I don't know what he saw in training. Maybe Kirkes was an elite defender in training, but on the pitch when it counted, this is not his game, and I don't think it should be his game. So now that the players are sufficiently jumbled about, what do you guys think? Because this is definitely a long one. Are we at 2 hours? Like, I've been recording for 2 hours. I don't think 2 hours got into the cut, but we might be close. This is dangerous. This is a long freaking podcast. I hope you enjoyed. If you've made it to this far, let's cut to me. Why not? It's my podcast. If you made it to this outro, you're an absolute legend. Let me know what you think. I'm curious, because I always love everyone's different opinions, and I think hopefully the people who have come to this channel have similar but different perspectives or takes on it as well. But when I go on places like Reddit, which I love, and it just can be wild. It could be a zoo sometimes. Like, people's opinions on some of the stuff relating to Liverpool. I don't even want to get into it because it will probably trigger everyone, but I've been very consistent on my fandom of Liverpool and how I think Liverpool should be run, based on how it's basically run when I became a fan, and what it's developed into, especially since like the Edwards Klopp era. I thought the very beginning of that was probably some of the best that I've seen from Liverpool. And again, yeah, fandom probably dates back to like 2004, 5, 6, etc. But now it's a totally different game. So that was the sound of all of my sighs to this very long podcast. And if you made it this far, again, like I said, absolute legend. I really enjoyed making this type of content, and I enjoyed making this podcast. I say that as I've been recording for over 2 hours now, but yeah, if you're coming to this just for Liverpool, if somebody shared it to you because you're like a Premier League fan or a Liverpool fan, I typically do FPL content. So Fantasy Premier League is what I do. Again, for fun. I say that as if like this is my job. My job is a quantitative researcher. I got my PhD in statistics, and I think that I bring some sort of level to FPL, and it's served me pretty well. And throughout the years of playing FPL, but this season, not so much. I mean, I'm still fine. Like, I'm kind of around 60, 70K or whatever. But yeah, previous seasons getting a couple in the top 3K. So again, if you are interested in FPL and maybe my content could help you learn about the game and kind of get competitive edges on certain players. This season was rough though, because the pricing structure was completely broken. None of the premiums did very well, apart from Holland. So the pricing structure was just completely shot from the very beginning before a ball was kicked. And who could have predicted that? Anyways, FPL hopefully is better next season. I'm also in line with all these like special episodes. I am going to be coming out with a podcast detailing everything that I will suggest for FPL next season. So kind of like this podcast, although I don't know if I'm going to be doing a tier list of ideas, but yeah, I will be coming out with a podcast in the next couple of weeks, hopefully before the season's over, because I feel like once the season's over, a lot of people will be checked out, and you're probably already checked out. Let's be real. I've noticed, I've seen the numbers. They've gone down. I don't think it's because I'm bad at this. I think it's probably because people are tuning out of this season. It's been a weird FPL season, but I've rambled enough. If you enjoyed this type of content, if you enjoy FPL type content, subscribe, hit me up on Discord. I would love to see more engagement about this type of content, because I love Liverpool. I love looking at teams and like build. I play Football Manager. Maybe you could tell, but I love doing this type of stuff. Squad building. I wish I could. There's part of me that wishes I could influence some of the transfers, but I know that is obviously not true. But I think if we had a team a squad that looked like that next season, and maybe there's things I'm overlooking, but I think it'd be fairly good. And I think of the players I identified, those would probably be pretty decent and reasonably priced. Kareem Adeyemi, 1 year left on his contract. Who else did we recommend? Let me go to my tier list. I swear I'm done with the podcast. I swear this is the outro, but Adeyemi, 1 year left on his deal. Camavinga, probably going to be just straight up forced out of Real Madrid, plus Real Madrid imploding. Jeremy Jacquet, already on the books. Nico Schlotterbeck, potentially some sort of secret deal to agreement to be made. Senesi, free contract. Hayden Hackney, I'd be curious to see how much is left on his deal, but he cannot be that much, like 25 mil I would expect. So while I think they are all good transfers, I think reasonably priced, and Liverpool probably need to start being a little bit smarter in the window, because we can't just spend 100 million on every single player. Yeah, that's my perspective, but feel free to disagree. I'm sure you will. I tend to not have a popular opinion on this type of stuff, but hopefully this podcast / video has maybe swayed you a little bit and made you think in a slightly different way. That's the goal. But I'll see you next time for the next Liverpool crisis video, which will probably be sometime mid-summer. So, but until then, I'll be back with FPL before the game week 37 deadline. It's been a long night, guys. But yeah, I'll see you before the next deadline for FPL content. And if you have some suggestions on other teams you may want me to take a look at, I am deeply obsessed with Liverpool, so this will be my focus. But yeah, happy to do any of them. Just recommend a team, and I'll take some time. I'll probably put a podcast together. So I'll see you on Discord. I'll see you on the next podcast. Later.